What's up everybody? Welcome back to my channel. I'm like kind of nervous to film this video. I set up a little bit earlier to do this and was like, yeah, I'm gonna make this video. I needed to wait until my son went to sleep because you could hear everything above my head. I film in my basement. In that time, I somehow got a little nervous. So before I really get into the meat and bones of this video, I just want to put a couple disclaimers out there before I get started. One, I will not be going over the company or any personal names in telling this story. There's a couple reasons. One of them is to protect the identity of the people that I care about, and also because the company that this happened at is pretty much a completely different company. So I don't really want the company to be affected by something that happened in the past that really has nothing to do with them. I'll be referring to this company as the company. The three main people I'm going to be talking about, I will be referring to as Tom, Dick, and Harry, because it's going to be easy to remember. Another thing I want to say, I will not be censoring this video. Not that there's going to be a lot that I feel like I need to give any trigger warnings for, but I am going to be talking about predatory behavior. Just keep that in mind before we really get into this video. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for being here to listen to a very personal story of mine that I've been wanting to actually share for a couple years now, and I just didn't because this is gonna sound crazy, but I didn't want the lack of quality in the video to take away from the message and what I had to say. Without further ado, I'm gonna get into telling you how my boss was a predator and I was way too polite about it. Alright, I worked at the company, right? So I started working for this company at a relatively young age, but I wasn't dumb or naive in the same sense just because I was young. I didn't get any initial weird vibes from my boss. See, I can't even say that with a straight face because I think I really did though, but I wasn't really sure what it was. My boss was about, I would say, 20 years older than me, and we're going to be referring to my previous boss as Tom. Tom was much older than me. I would say old enough to be my father. Not that that matters necessarily, because any boss can really be a predator at any age, whether they're older or younger than you, but I'm really just wanting to set the tone here. Paint the picture, if you will. He had a wife, no kids. We were really excited because we had opened up a new territory for the widget that we sold. We as in the company had a work trip planned. It was like a sales trip to introduce these distributors to our widget. We were going to try and sell this widget at different places. Originally, my coworker at the time was supposed to go on this work trip, and I will not be giving this coworker a name because he really won't be mentioned much, and that's just too many fake names for me to remember, to be honest, and I don't want to confuse myself or accidentally, reveal his name. My coworker's wife was actually going to be having a baby around this time, so he couldn't go on this work trip. Therefore, I was able to go. I was super excited about this. It was a bigger city, one I hadn't been to yet, and I was just really excited to get the chance to go, and I thought it would be a great work opportunity. The company that I worked for at the time also wasn't necessarily in the best financial position. It had years of history of bad management, bad financial management. Keep that in mind as I'm telling you parts of the story. I get to go on this trip. I'm super excited. Can't wait to go. Tom then proceeds to tell me, you're going on this trip. We're driving there, which is fine. It made sense. Shit, my heat kicked on. I'll be back when it turns off. Lord, I did not think about my heater kicking on when I picked this little space in my house for filming. Anywho, geez, where was I? Okay, I have to now go on this trip. Got it. We're driving. Got it. All right, cool. Find out I'm going on this trip. Super excited. Before we go on the trip, my boss Tom is like, when we drive out there and we get there, we're going to be sharing a hotel room to save money. Now, remember when I said the company was not in the best financial position due to past ownership and financial management? He knew I knew this. I'm now looking back and fully aware that in me knowing that, he felt comfortable enough to use the company as an okay reason to share a room with a subordinate half his age who is also a female. I literally just really didn't know what to say. I put the financial interest of this company ahead of my personal comfort and I feel like safety ahead. Yeah. the company ahead of my personal comfort and safety. I just didn't know what to say, but I was like, okay, we're driving to this city, right? On the way, like, I fully am aware that I'm going to be sharing one singular hotel room with my boss. I cannot tell you how much I hated that feeling driving out there. It was the worst. I'm sure we had lots of conversation, or maybe not very much at all, but what I do remember the most, and this will always stick out to me, is when he started telling me how him and his wife were having marital problems. As if I needed to know that, right? Like, don't need to know that. You know, this was a very small company, so it was really hard not to get like too personal, because there really wasn't that many of us that worked there. So I guess it's not really like out of the question that someone would fill you in on that. But also, that's when my gut just really like started kicking in, and the red flags just, oh my God, sirens. I was so uncomfortable. I didn't really say much that I can remember. I just, what do you say? You know, we get to our destination, you know, I'm dreading going to sleep, but it ended up being fine, except that he definitely snored. But it was still very, very uncomfortable. I was so happy to find out that the next night we were in fact getting separate hotel rooms. I don't fully know why he couldn't make it happen for the first night, but whatever. He made it happen for the second night. The following day, we basically went to meet with a company that we were partnering with to sell the widgets and their sales team and whatnot. And we were doing ride-alongs to meet some of their customers. That was great. I really don't remember the rep's name that I rode with, but super cool. Nothing, you know, nothing exciting to report. We get done with our ride-alongs. We also then had a meeting with someone that we were interviewing to be a sales rep. This person I'm going to call Harry. So Harry lived in this territory and was going to handle a certain amount of territory if he took the job that was offered to him. He was great. We connected like very well. After our work day, we then went and celebrated. Dick is next. So Dick then took us around to some of his favorite spots. You know, Tom and Harry were along for the ride, as well as myself. It gets towards like the end of the night, and Tom gets just a little bit more like, I don't want to say aggressive, but a little bit more comfortable with touching me. So he'd like kind of like grab my face and be like, oh, I'm so excited, like we did it, like then like in a celebratory way, right? And I was just like, oh yeah, yay, we did it, like so exciting, but like please don't touch me, you know. But I didn't want to make a big deal about it, right? Then Dick takes us to this next place, and Tom's in the passenger seat. You got Dick driving, and I'm in the back seat behind Tom. And all of a sudden, this grown man who is married my boss and is just completely out of line decides to reach around from the front seat of the car to start stroking my fucking leg. Like, stroked my leg. I will never forget this day in my life. I will never forget it. I started texting Harry because I'm like, please tell me you're coming to this next place. Please tell me you're coming. You have to come. You have to come. You have to come. I felt like I had no one, and I felt trapped. And he's like, yes, I'll be there. I'll be there. We get to the last place that we were going, and I go to the bathroom and I call my best friend, who is like 8 hours away, and I am bawling. And I just told her everything that had happened. He touched me. He rubbed my leg. He's been touching my face. Like, he's staring at me. And that's the thing. Like, when we got to this next place, like, he was fucking staring into my soul. Into my soul. I wanted to go home so bad, and I was just so far away. And she's like, call me if you need me. You know, I will come get you. And trust me, she would have. Harry ends up giving me and Tom a ride back to our hotel, and I filled him in on what was going on, and I said, I'm not comfortable. Please walk me to my hotel room. Like, I don't feel safe. Before Tom knew that I had this conversation with Harry, he was like, oh, I got this awesome beer and we're gonna try it and it's gonna be so good. Like, the last thing I was doing was going to be drinking a beer with this man by myself with him in a hotel room. Not gonna happen. I asked Harry to please walk me to my room. So he does, and the key doesn't work. So then we have to go back to the hotel lobby to get a new key, and wouldn't you know, nobody's key worked. So there's a line at the front desk, and who is there but my boss, staring me down like he wanted to kill me. Oh, I'll never forget it. I get walked back to my room. My phone blows up from my boss telling me, if I think that this is what this job is about, I got another thing coming, you better think about your position. He threatened my job, you know, said, if you think this is about having men come to your room and stay with you, I think you need to think about a different career, and just really tore into me. And I'm like, wait the fuck a minute, like, who do you think you are? I didn't respond, and I called Harry, and I was crying. Of course I'm crying, I'm upset. Like, yes, we had been like drinking, but like not enough for me to make that be why I was emotional about it. And I wasn't being emotional. I feel like I had a very normal reaction to the situation that I was put in. So I called Harry and I'm like, please come get me. And he's like, okay, well, are you sure you aren't going to be okay until tomorrow morning? Like, I will come get you. And I started forwarding the message. I forwarded him the messages, and he's like, oh my gosh, you're right. You like really, you got to get out of there. I was praying that while I was packing up and getting ready to leave, that Tom wouldn't notice that I had in fact packed my shit up and left. And he didn't. What's sad about all of this is I trusted someone more than my boss that I had just met in that day. I trusted him more than my boss of at least a couple years at that point. Like, that's sad. And Harry was kind enough to actually drive me all the way home. He asked if I wouldn't mind staying, and I couldn't do it. I said, I really can't. Please take me home. Please. I begged him to please take me home, and he did. The next day, I called my coworker and told him what happened. Pretty much everyone that I worked with at that time was very supportive, except Dick. I get home, Harry takes a nap at my mom's house because, I mean, he drove all that way to get me home and out of an uncomfortable position and potentially unsafe position, and he had to drive all the way back home, so he definitely deserved that nap. I have been forever grateful to him, and we have remained close friends. He's just a very good person, and I'm so thankful that he is someone that I had the opportunity to meet. It's just nice to know that there really are great men out there that respect and care about women and are not pieces of shit. Harry gets me home. I talked to well, Tom tried to call me and I wouldn't answer. I still have not spoken to that man to this day, and I hope I never do. And I hope I never see his face. Every once in a while, I've actually had a dream that I've ran into him, and I wake up like in a panic. I'm not even kidding. The next part of this is really frustrating. Dick calls me and said, you know, I'm glad you got home. What happened? Tom called me. He's just really distraught and really upset. I told him what happened. I said, I'm not gonna work with him. Like, I'm not working with him. He threatened my job. He threatened my safety. He harassed me. I'm sorry, but I refuse to work with him. So either he's done or I'll quit. And that was really it. I wasn't really had no desire to like get a lawyer or do anything like that. I really just never wanted to talk to this person again or deal with it again. So that was kind of where I was at. Dick has the audacity to ask me if I really am sure that I cannot work with him again because Tom is just so sorry for what happened. He feels terrible. I said, Dick, I work with all men. All of my coworkers at this point in time were all men. And I have had drinks with them all, many occasions, and not one single one of them has ever done anything remotely disrespectful or out of line the way my boss just did this weekend. No, I will not work with him again. And if you want him to work there, that's fine. I'm gonna quit. Well, it turns out all the guys at my company had my back, and they said if Tom walked back in that door, they were all leaving. Again, forever grateful that I really do know so many great men in my life that are not terrible people. So what I mean by I was too polite is the fact that I just didn't really stand up for myself quite enough. I was too worried about the company I worked for, one, in the fact that I should have never agreed to staying in a hotel room with my boss. I am not victim blaming myself, so please don't think that that's what I'm doing, because I'm not. I'm just telling you, looking back, the things I kind of wish I would have done, and I don't know if it's because of age, because I really don't think it is. I just didn't want the conflict and I didn't want to be uncomfortable, and instead of sticking up for myself, I ended up being even more uncomfortable and potentially put in even more of a dangerous situation than I was already in. I was too polite about agreeing to staying in that hotel room. I was too polite about not stopping the inappropriate conversation about my boss having marital problems with his wife, and I was certainly way too polite about not speaking up when he was actually actually putting his hands on me when his boss was in the car. Instead, I just moved my leg to the side and prayed that he wouldn't be able to reach me. Instead of saying anything, I just said nothing. When it came to not going back to work, the reasons I decided not to make a bigger deal out of it than what it had already was for me is I really truly cared about the people that I worked with, and I didn't want the company's reputation to get tarnished to a point where people wouldn't support it, because I cared about the people that I worked with and their jobs and their families. I then also thought about my boss's wife and how she would feel, and anyone else that had invested money into that company. I put everyone else above my own comfort. And I'm telling this story because not because I feel like you should tell your story if you're not ready to, because I think a story like this needs to be told on someone's own time. I've been wanting to tell this story for so long, but I haven't done it. Well, I just don't really know why. I've told a few people, but I've never shared it on such a public platform. And it was kind of back during the Me Too movement when that came around, and I really, really wanted to tell it then, and then I just didn't get around to it. And I also maybe felt like the message that I had might get muddied or lost with so many people telling their story. And I'm not saying that I wanted my story to like outrank or over, how do I want to put this? I'm not saying I wanted my story to be like viewed more than someone else's, because I think the more awareness we bring to this situation, the better. But I think what happens is when a movement gains traction on social media and it's like a trending topic, it then falls off. So for me, it was better to wait, and I didn't realize at the time it was better for me to wait, but I see it now, because a lot of these movements need attention long after their hashtag stops trending on social media. So with that being said, basically that's the end of my story. Another thing that's a little frustrating is the company, because I don't know why, but Dick thought it was okay to still somehow do business with Tom in a manner afterwards, and that was just frustrating, because it's like the man still was able to profit from the company he worked at with no repercussion for what he had done. So for me, this story is more about me getting it off my chest and hopefully encouraging someone to watch, you know, their own red flags if they're in a situation. Trust your gut. Ladies, guys, whoever, trust your gut. It is so important. Intuition is an amazing thing, and if something is telling you that something's not right, it probably isn't. Again, I am not trying to victim blame myself, and I would never victim blame anyone. If something doesn't feel right about a person, you're probably right. Just err on the side of caution. And you know, if nothing else, being extra protective of your surroundings isn't going to be a bad thing. Anyway, that's where I'm going to end this video. Thank you so much for getting through it. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. Please like and subscribe if you would like. Not all of my videos are going to be this heavy. Some are going to be a little bit more playful. Some story times will be heavy. It just depends. We'll see how it goes. I'm feeling things out. This is like a new thing for me, so I gotta go. My heater's kicking on again. I don't want to sit through it. So working on my intro and my outro. So you'll have to give me some time to perfect that. See y'all.